Okay, welcome to 11.1 of Unit 2, qualifying for a mortgage. So you're going to need internet access or local real estate listings. We'll see. So try these. Place a check mark beside a financial obligation that are debts. Car loan is a debt, student loan is a debt, and credit cards are debt. Okay. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of mortgages. Gerard and Amy want to buy a home in St. Boniface. The amount that they can borrow for a mortgage depends on their gross income and total debt payment. What are Gerard and Amy's gross monthly income and total monthly debt? So what is their combined gross monthly income? Number one, let's do that. Gross monthly income, meaning how much do they make together? Let's look at the little hints on the side. I like to look at those. Mortgage, a loan for a house, a condo, or other property such as land or cottages. So that's what a mortgage is, if you didn't know. Anyone who wants to buy anything that's expensive, like land or property, has to get a mortgage. So what is their combined income? Well, over here we have gross income. Gerard has $45,000 annually, and Amy has $1,475 biweekly. They have some debt payments. They have a car loan, they have a student loan, and they have credit cards. So let's figure out what is Gerard's gross monthly income. Well, we'll take his yearly income and divide it by 12 months, and we will get $3,768.50 in your calculator. What is Amy's gross monthly income? Well, she gets how many payments a year? She was bi-weekly. Where was it? Right over here. Bi-weekly. So that means there's 52 weeks in a year. Half that is 26. She gets 26 payments per year at that much. And there's 12 months in a year. So the way you put this in your calculator, I'll show you because we're just starting a new unit. We have 26 times 1475.52 divide 12. There we go. That's our answer. 3,196.96. That is how much she makes a month. Now we have both of their monthlies. We gotta combine them to see how much they make together. So we gotta do that by adding 3,768.50 plus 3,196.96. Those two added together equal 6,965.46. So that's what they make together before taxes. Number two says, what is their total monthly debt payments? So the things that they owe, that they have to pay every month. Well, we can just add those three together. So that's 422.48 plus 479.25 plus 345. Added together in your calculator, that is about 1,246.73. That's what their monthly payment is going to be. So far, so good. Now let's move on to our first example. So lenders use two ratios to determine the housing costs that people can afford. And Mr. K just went through all of this last year, so I have a bit of personal experience with this. Housing costs include mortgage payments, property taxes, and heating costs. So the rules, they do a ratio. There's a gross debt service ratio that they call GDSR, and there's a total debt service ratio, which is called a TDSR. And you'll see these two use later on in questions, so you'll want to come back to this chart. So the rule for the GDSR is monthly housing costs must not be greater than 32% of the gross monthly income. So if Mr. K made, I don't know, $1,000 a month, my housing costs can't be more than $320. Otherwise, I can't get that mortgage. Now, looking at the TDSR, total monthly debt payments, including house costs, so this plus debt must not be greater than 40% of the gross monthly income, or else the bank will not give you the mortgage. And they're getting quite strict with these rules nowadays, so it's getting harder and harder to get a house, which is why it's so important that we know how to budget, how to do this math, because it's very relevant to your lives. Okay, so let's take a look at Gerard and Amy's home that they're looking for. So their property taxes are $160.50 a month. If you don't know what property tax is, it's a tax that's put in place by the government. So every person that owns any type of property has to pay property taxes, because that's what funds education, fixing roads, fixing like any city services are got through property taxes. So everyone pays a bit, and then the government has a lot to play with so that they can fix things in cities. Okay, and their heating costs is going to be about $95 a month. So how much can they afford for a monthly mortgage payment? So the bank or your lender will go through this all with you when you want to buy a house. So what is their maximum mortgage payment based on the GDSR that we looked at earlier? Well, that was 32%, and 32% of their gross income that we figured out, their combined gross income was $6,965.46. So 32% of that would be about $2,228.95. So the mortgage payments that they're going to get is the GDSR minus property tax minus heating costs. So what we just calculated, the 2228.95, the GDSR, minus what we were given up here, property tax and their heating costs, is going to equal $1,971.45. Let's take a look at the hint. Bankers calculate the GDSR or the TDSR to decide whether to give someone a mortgage. They use the ratio with the lower amount. So keep in mind, banks use this. B. Let's look at the maximum mortgage payment based on the TDSR. So the other thing was 40%. 40% of their gross income is about $2,786.16. So their mortgage payment would be the TDSR minus other debts, taxes, and heating. So we have to plug all of that in. The TDSR that we just calculated minus the other monthly debts that we calculated earlier, minus the taxes for property, and minus the heating. That will give us a total of $1,281.95. So how much can they afford for a monthly mortgage payment? They can afford $1,281.95. Reflection: what could Gerard and Amy do to qualify for greater monthly housing payments? I guess get a cheaper house, or cut some of their debts out so that they can get a higher, eliminate this and get a higher number. Okay, big question that was. Let's move on to example 2. where we actually look at down payments and housing. So the house that Gerard and Amy want to buy, it actually costs $210,000, which isn't very much in terms of housing in Manitoba. I think Winnipeg average, like, it's super competitive between $200,000 to $300,000. Very hard to get a house. A lot of people want that price. But then once you start sprouting up to $400,000 to $500,000, it gets a bit less competitive, but not many people can afford that, right? So they need 5% of the purchase price for the minimum down payment and 2% of the purchase price for closing costs. So when you buy a house, you have to have money to do it. 5% of this value is quite a lot of money, but the bank won't let you buy a house without some money up front. They're just not going to lend you all of this money without something. So in Canada, first-time home buyers have to have a minimum of 5% of a value of a home. So Mr. K saved up, and I think I ended up putting down 15% on my house because it was just better for me at the time. The faster you pay off your house, the better, because you give the bank less money and you get out of debt faster. So what are closing costs? Well, it says right here, closing costs. The additional costs of buying a home are closing costs. And his examples are such as legal fees, home inspections, moving costs. So that's closing costs. And let me tell you, those are quite expensive. They get to be, lawyers can be like $10,000 now with all the fees and paperwork that they do for you. It's insane. So how much will they need for the down payment and closing costs? Let's calculate this. The bank also calculates this with you. So if you can't afford it, they won't give you money. Solution. How much will Gerard and Amy need for the down payment? Well, how much will they need for their closing costs? Let's do the down payment. They need 5% of $210,000. So they need upfront, before getting a house, they need 10 grand in the bank. Plus, let's check the closing costs. 2% of 210,000 is 4,200. So what do they need in total? Add these two together, and you're going to be surprised to find out that before Gerard and Amy buy a house at all, they have to probably rent and save up. They have to save up almost $15,000 to get a starter home, to even think about offering the bank, like to get anything approved. So you got to save up quite a lot of money, which is hard to do nowadays with how expensive things are. Okay, let's move on to the next page and see what we got. Okay, so this is practice for you guys. We will probably go over some of them. They could be tricky. Calculate the gross monthly income. Well, monthly income, that's 12 months in a year, or 52 weeks in a year. You guys can do number one pretty easy. Let's look at number two. What are the maximum monthly housing costs that each person can afford? So it would be this minus this, this minus this, and this minus that. We'll give you those two answers, so that's pretty easy as well. I'll leave you guys to do that by yourselves. Let's look at 3. Sure, I'll do 3. So 1 and 2 are you, 3 is me. Jocelyn's gross annual income is $43,500. She pays $22,900 monthly on her car loan. She has no other debts. What is her gross monthly income? So let's do this. Monthly income equals her annual income divided by 12 months in a year. So that is, we were given that 43,500 divided by 12. So she's making 3,625 a month. Now, how much can Jocelyn afford for housing costs? Well, you got to do the 32% and 42% of the monthly income. So 32% times 3,625 is 1,160, and 40% of 3,625 is minus her debt of 229, because we have to, right here it says we have to include the debt in the TDSR, is 1,221. Which one's higher, the GDSR or the TDSR? Well, it looks like the GDSR is the lower amount. Jocelyn can afford $1,160 a month. C. Oh, and let's just look at the hints before we move on. Housing costs include mortgage payments, property taxes, and heat. Okay, good. C. Jocelyn's monthly take-home pay is about 65% of her gross pay from Part A. How much money will Jocelyn have left after paying her housing costs and car payments? Assume she is paying the maximum amount she can afford for housing costs. Okay, well, let's figure out what 65% is of her gross monthly pay. So she actually brings home, after taxes, $2,365. Now, we're gonna take away the GDSR, 2,356.25 minus 1,160. And her debt. She has debt too, minus her debt of 229. She has a whopping $967.25 left to herself every month. So that could be used for clothing, food, leisure stuff, going out, partying, whatever she wants to do, which that's not actually that bad, I guess. Okay, let's look on to the next page of practice. Number 4, calculate. You have Matthew, and he's in a condominium. He needs 5%. I'll let you guys do number 4. And I'll probably do 5. I will do 5, and then you guys can do 6. So number 5, we have Joe and Marta plan to buy a home. They have no debt. That's awesome. What is Joe and Marta's combined monthly income? We have the incomes right here. Joe's income is bi-weekly, so let's convert that to how much does he make a month. Well, we can just do 1,800 bi-weekly is just times 2 would be monthly, so he gets 3,600 a month. Marta, well, conveniently it's given to us, $3,180 a month. So together they make 3,180 plus 3,600 equals $7,080 together. What is their GDSR? GDSR is the 32%, 0.32 times 7,080. So their GDSR is 2265.60. Awesome. How much can they afford for housing costs? Explain. They can afford that much for housing costs since they have no debt. The TDSR doesn't apply, right? So no debt means no TDSR. They don't have debt, which is why I underlined that earlier. So we don't have to actually calculate the TDSR because it'd be the same as the GDSR. They don't have debt. So they can afford 2265.60. That's what they can afford. Okay. And then you guys have number 6, use local real estate listing or the internet. Find a home in the community where you want to start your career. How much does the home cost? How much money will you need for the down payment? So that's actually really cool. You can go to like Remax or just look up home listings on the internet on Google, and you'll find a house, and then you can look up what it costs and the percentages. Okay, awesome. Moving on to the next section in the unit 11.2.